and I don't know how you're handling this. I've had discussions with many people on the streets and friends alike on the decision taken by the NFF. Now, Amaju Pinnick came out to justify that decision, speaking yesterday, and he said Ghana Raw had his time with the Super Eagles. The decision made wasn't necessarily about winning or losing. Said if they didn't sack Raw, there was an impending disaster waiting to happen in the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Talked about indiscipline, talked about a whole lot more. Well, you followed Super Eagles for a while, 64 massive months. Did you see any of the decisions, on the pitch of play or off the pitch of play? Or did you even hear snippets of things that gives credence to what Amaju Pinnick is saying in discipline with the national team setup?
And not at all. I think Amaju Pinnick has been one person who's always sort of supported Raw when Nigerians were talking about the sack of Raw.
So what changed?
I think it's another question you might ask will be, why did you have to keep him this long? If you saw a pending disaster, why did he have to keep it? He's the longest coach Nigeria's ever had.
Yes, 64.
So you can imagine that. So if he was that bad, why did you keep him this long? You didn't keep the 1994 coach that long. You didn't keep Bonfrey Joe that long. So what has been the problem? But for me, I think he's just making excuses, finding what to say. I think the call came when a lot of Nigerians started calling for the sack of Janet Raw. And then you had the ministry, the minister being a part of it, wanted Raw out. I don't know what's between, there've been side talks about deals between NFF and Raw's contract and all. Those are side talks and all that. But definitely
it's unofficial.
It's unofficial. So from a standpoint of a general or the masses, one might think, what's really happening about sacking coaches?
Now, let's look at something. I read his statement, and of course, I listened to him talk very strikingly. And, in the second paragraph, he said something very striking. He talked about players and insubordination. Players can now walk up to people and talk about certain things, if you like, unheard of in time past. And it just quickly brought to mind the recent situation where Leon Balogun went in the media space and was talking about players and how they're treated. Players' entitlement being owed, the coaches being owed, and of course some of the misgivings with the national team setup. Is it now wrong in this country to speak up with issues of your rights when things are not going well? Is it a crime?
We repeatedly see this in Nigeria all the time. We see it happen. You have a captain. There was a time when Vincent Nyama was booted out of the Super Eagles. He spoke up.
Well, there were two. Vincent Nyama and John B. Mikel. So one man apparently singled out. Okay.
So you normally see that scenario. We understand in terms of behavioral tendencies. Captains and teammates and players have to behave, team leaders, they have to behave in a certain way and bring respect to football. But come on, when it's required, these guys who talk, they have to speak up. There's no point in having a total control of a team, not wanting these players to speak up. It doesn't make sense to me. And if that's an excuse for sacking Raw, that the team or the players are beginning to have a lot of freedom to speak up on issues concerning the team, then that's totally wrong for me. Well, it goes further to show why the necessity of sacking Raw is wrong for me. It was wrong, the timing so wrong. And as I said the other time, when you sack Raw, who do you bring in? Austin Eguava.
Yeah, they brought in Austin Eguava. And now, the other conversation, a lot of people are talking about it is, if you're sacking Raw, the major complaint for sacking Raw from the standpoint of the fans was the fact that he lacked tactical depth. And you bring in Austin Eguava. Has he got tactical depth? That's number one. Number two, if you, the NFF, and technical committee say Raw was sacked because of insubordination and, of course, indiscipline on the part of the players, is Austin Eguava the man to come in and restore order, law and order, in the national team setup like that?
For me, it boils down to our priorities. It boils down to priorities within NFF. It boils down to priorities within the national team, what we want to achieve. I repeat my saying, and I believe it was wrong to sack Raw, especially when you don't have a right replacement. Austin Eguavoen for me is not the right replacement. We've seen Austin Eguavoen repeatedly in the Super Eagles Hymns of Fear. If he was that good, they would have given him the job long ago. What's the point always bringing him as an interim coach, especially close to the Nations Cup? It doesn't make sense for me.
Well, he looks like that kind of guy, comes in, steadies the ship, and off he goes.
And there's another rumor I heard that one of the reasons Raw was sacked was that there was a request from the ministry to include Austin Eguavoen in his technical team, which Raw outrightly refused and also laid to the push. But we know there have been talks about the sack of Raw in recent times, and they've talked about it over and over and over again. It seemed like something that was coming, and finally it came. But the question and the problem would always be, why replace Kenneth Raw with Austin Eguavoen?
Now, beyond the veneer of all of the complaints and, of course, the dissatisfaction on the minds of many football fans on the replacement of Ghana Raw, finally they've had their wishes. Sack Raw.
Their wishes.
Yeah, sack Raw. But now Eguavoen comes in.
Yeah.
There are complaints about Eguavoen, whether or not he's the man to lead the Super Eagles at the 33rd edition of AFCON next year in Cameroon. Now, Ike Shurumu, an ex-international,
his teammates,
is coming out to say Eguavoen is here after all said and done.
Yeah.
He needs our support to be successful at AFCON. Is support the only phenomenon Eguavoen needs at AFCON to make a mark and succeed with the national team?
Well, the question is, what choice do we have? We don't have any other choice. He's the manager now for the Super Eagles. Yeah. If you want Super Eagles to succeed, we have to also support the Super Eagles. And in turn, we support Austin Eguavoen. Let me just give him a little reasonable doubt. Take away some of the doubts I have on him and hope that Eguavoen might surprise us. But for me, within me, I'm not expecting surprises. I'm not expecting to see an electric Super Eagles side. I'm not expecting to see an exciting Super Eagles side. I'm expecting to see Super Eagles under Austin Eguavoen who play the normal football we're saying, who wouldn't be that much different from Janet Raw. I'm expecting to see the young lads play their football, everybody come together and play their football, but nothing special for me. Right. But do I have a choice other than to support him?
Now, let's look at something. Austin Eguavoen is here. Whether or not, Nigerians like the decision, is the man saddled with that responsibility now. And in the words of Ike Shurumu, we must, put our weights behind him, galvanize support for him, at least for the sake of the Super Eagles and Nigeria heading to AFCON. But now, on the part of the NFF, what do you think they should do? What do you think are those things Austin Eguavoen needs to succeed at the AFCON in Cameroon, which the NFF must provide and immediately? Well,
number one, let's have good preparation. AFCON is around the corner. Barely is not up to a month anymore. So good preparation. If you don't prepare, you can succeed. The team have to get together as early as 10 days before in camp, before the tournament, and let's call the right players. Give quality players opportunities to play. Let's not have the stories we have in Nigeria, having players, because for me, that's the best thing we saw on the Raw, having players who ought to be in the Super Eagles, play for the Super Eagles. That's number two. Number three, make sure you prepare the bonuses for the players, because they're rankers right now. Trust me, there are a lot of players who are in support of Raw.
Yeah, he talked about something very strikingly. He said, call the players. With Austin Eguavoen now in charge of the Super Eagles, who would call the players, Eguavoen or the NFF?
That's the problem. But I think the system is usually that of the coach, the technical committee.
Yeah.
Yes, the coach and the technical committee, because definitely as a coach, it's like you have a boss. So you say, I'm bringing these players. That's how it's been working in Nigeria. That's how it's been happening in Nigeria. So you submit your names of the players you want to call to the NFF technical board. They look at it, and if there's need for certain changes, they call to your attention. But definitely the coach ought to bring his players.
The coach should.
The coach should.
But
the way it is, under normal circumstances. But with Austin Eguavoen, are we sure Eguavoen will call the shots?
Global best practices should have the coach selecting his team. Would that be the situation heading to AFCON 2022? Well, we know in this country the opinions, and of course the opinion leaders as well. And these opinion leaders like it or leave it, and have their way and have their say on beyond the team invitation. They also have their say even on the team list. Who starts where, at whose expense? Well, we're hoping it would not be the situation heading to Cameroon. Otherwise, that thing Majumel Pinnick said, on the Raw, was there was an impending disaster. That disaster could happen in Cameroon in 2022. Well, I know a lot of Nigerians are saying, God forbid. I'm saying that too. God forbid.
There's another problem that might happen with Eguavon at the helm of affair.
Yeah.
Right now, a lot of club sides would want their players to play for them at least up to the 2nd of January.
No, but it can't happen.
But before now, we had Rangers asked General, guys from Glasgow had called General requesting that the likes of Balogun, Joe Aribo, and Bassi.
It can't happen because that leaves the Super Eagles and that leaves the technical crew, which is how many days? 7 days to the commencement of AFCON.
Well, definitely, I think it would likely happen because these clubs are paying these players. And it's usually a brown and point relationship.
Yeah.
It doesn't go all your way. It doesn't go the way of the club all the time. So you have to adjustment. Yes, there must be a middle ground. You try to settle the club in somewhere prior to the tournament, and the club also tries to make sure it's good for the country.
All right. Well, whatever happens, we'll see how it pans out. But we're wishing the Super Eagles the very best heading to AFCON next year. Proverbially, as I always say, we hope the return this time around with the goodies. And talk about the goodies, the conversation continues about the UEFA Champions League, the latest draw conducted in Nyon, Switzerland yesterday. Well, you also had that one shrouded in some sort of controversy. We'll talk about that right after this short break. So you stay right here with us.
In the first half, but they scored with their second in the second half. Couple seconds, it's 1-0. Ultimately, icing coming up short. The time is finished. Nigeria 2.
From the 10th for the United States. Chua misses the free throw. The U.S. is one, it's over. It becomes a 2-possession game. If he misses, you're going to need a 90-foot heave. Missed them both. The final heave from midcourt and beyond, and Nigeria.
Them unable to qualify in the first half, but they scored with their second in the second half. Couple seconds, it's 1, it's over. Ultimately, icing coming up short. The time is finished. Nigeria 2.
From the 10th for the United States. Chua misses the free throw.